That's it. That's the whole greeting. Good morning, everyone. We have a rowdy bunch in the room, so we're just settling. Yeah, welcome, welcome, welcome. And here's a reminder to turn cell phones off if you haven't had a chance to do that yet. I invite you to take care of yourself in terms of your decision about masking, your decision about the kind of space you want between you and the next person. Help that be in your hands. It's great to see you. Great to have everyone here online on Zoom. What a beauty to have the option going forward, right? To have both of these possibilities. As we enter, I want to preview the words of the Reverend Gretchen Haley, which we're going to hear shortly, who says that here, every Sunday, in our song and our silence, our stories and our sharing, we make space for a new breath, a new healing, a new possibility to take root. So let's conspire. Let's breathe with. I invite you to take 3 attentive breaths. Breathing in, knowing that you are breathing in. And breathing out, knowing that you're breathing out. Breathing in, knowing that you're breathing in. And breathing out, knowing that you're breathing out. One more, breathing in. And breathing out. Here we are. We begin by remembering where we are with the land acknowledgement formed by the first people of this area, the Nisenan, a land acknowledgement read this morning by Scotty Hart.
In our commitment to be in right relationship with the descendants of this area's indigenous people, we place a small basket of black oak acorns on our altar each week. In so doing, we acknowledge the Nisenan people are still here among us today, though nearly invisible after generations of erasure and exclusion from California's history. We understand we are on Nisenan land that was never ceded, and the original tribal families have yet to recover from the genocide of their people. As residents or visitors in Nisenan land, we support the Nevada City Rancheria Nisenan tribe in efforts to stabilize their people, as well as the campaign to restore tribal sovereignty through federal recognition.
This act of faith by the Reverend Gretchen Haley. What's going to happen? Will everything be okay? What can I do? What can I do? In these days, we find ourselves too often stuck with these questions on repeat. What's going to happen? Will everything be okay? What can I do? We grasp at signs and markers, articles of news and analysis, Facebook memes, and forwarded emails, as if the new zodiac, capable of forecasting all that life may yet bring our way, as if we could prepare, as if life had ever made any promises of making sense or turning out the way we thought, as if we are not also actors in this still unfolding story. For this hour, we gather to surrender to the mystery, to release ourselves from the needing to know, the yearning to have it all already figured out, and also the burden of believing we either have all the control or none. Here, in our song and our silence, our stories and our sharing, we make space for a new breath, a new healing, a new possibility to take root. That is courage forged in the fire of us coming together and felt in the spirit that comes alive in this act of faith. That we believe still a new world is possible. That we are creating it already, here and now. Come, let us worship together.
Spirits into faith set free from fear. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze. When our hunger and our passion need to call us on our way. When we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the dreams of youthful vision comes a new prophetic voice, which demands a deeper justice filled by our courageous choice. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion need to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the stories of our living brings a song both brave and free, calling pilgrims still to witness to the life of liberty. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion need to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin.
As Chuck's coming up for the welcome, I want to welcome Toby Thomas Rose, who was scheduled to come play at an earlier Sunday, and then the virus got in the way, and so we saw a little snippet of Toby on video. So it's delightful to have you here, Toby, this morning. Welcome.
Well, good morning, everyone. and welcome to this final Sunday in March at the Unitarian Universalist Community of the Mountains, where we are concluding our March theme of renewing faith. My name is Chuck Champlin, your worship associate for today's service. It's a wonderful day for me to be back in our church in person, though I must admit that I have enjoyed the convenience of Zoom services. Recently, I've attended from as far away in Los Angeles, where I was with my mother, and Hawaii, where I was with my wife, Leslie, and my sister, Katie. I've seen some amazing meetings here at the church via Zoom, like last Sunday's special hosted by Beth, Karow, and Lindsay Dunkel. I've also really appreciated this month's theme of renewing faith. For one thing, it is particularly appropriate for the springtime when our faith is renewed that the sun will warm us once again after the cold of winter. Ironically, though, our especially warm weather this past week almost feels like an early summer already, though now a storm threatens. Renewing faith, though, also means we renew our resolve to do the right thing, to be aware that we are in changing times, that our very country in some ways is divided against itself. And in that awareness, can we renew our faith that we will all negotiate these sometimes difficult times together? I value this church and our congregation very much, with its heart-filled and loving view of our members and our sense of mission to foster love in the world and to do good work. Today will be part of that work. I'm so glad we are together. Now we're going to have a lighting of the chalice.
Lighting of the chalice, we light this flame as an act of faith, by Reverend Scott Taylor. We come with our doubts, worn out and worn down, wanting once again to trust, to believe that hope is not as fragile as it sometimes seems, that division is not as deep as it sometimes appears. And so we light this flame as an act of faith, a reminder, a redeclaration, a rekindling of the trust that darkness can't ever shut out the light, that kindness is more powerful than we know, that humility and accountability allow us to change, that together we can most certainly bend the arc of this beautiful universe towards justice.
I invite you to light your chalice at home and maybe even to dance into it, to dance into the lighting. Thank you, Dahlia. Thank you, Beth. How beautiful.
Well, I'm very pleased to have a chance to read this story, Treehouse Rules. And you can't see at the moment on our altar here, we have a tree house that was back behind me that was built by Gail Johnson Vaughn and her husband out of trees that fell in the recent storms. And so it's a miniature version of a tree house, and it's a really nice little sculpture to have up here. You're going to be able to see it perhaps in a wider view in a little while. Well, the story goes this way. The treehouse was built on the congregation's grounds over 3 Saturdays in September using donated lumber and the donated labor of the families who attended the church and other adults who wanted to help with the project. Even the kids got involved, especially those aged 10 and up, by pitching in and helping in any way that they could during the construction. And it was a fantastic place to be once it was completed, with a window that faced the nearby playground, a rope ladder to climb up, and a slide to exit. While everyone was happy that the treehouse was there, after all the planning and construction, it soon became a problem, though. When too many kids wanted to enjoy it at once, their different ideas about how to use it came into conflict with each other. The younger kids got a thrill out of running races through the treehouse, hurriedly climbing up the rope ladder, rushing through the treehouse to race down the slide over and over again, one after another. But the older kids wanted to hang out in the treehouse after the worship service ended, playing games like jacks and cards. And one day, a second grader racing by interrupted the 5th graders' game of cards for the 3rd time. Well, that was it. A fight broke out with name calling, pushing, and some tears. Well, some adults demanded that the treehouse be off limits until the children learned to cooperate with each other. Other adults protested, though, that their children had special rights to use the treehouse because they had helped to build it. The Religious Education Committee had meetings about a policy for use of the treehouse. They were getting ready to report to the congregation's board of directors with their findings. And meanwhile, the minister considered bringing in a consultant from the district to address the conflict, which had now spread through the entire congregation. It was a crisis. But while the adults were arguing, holding meetings, and creating policies, something happened. The children who had been temporarily banned from the treehouse started talking to each other and looking for ways that they could all use the treehouse together. A few of them remembered the covenants they had created in their religious education programs the year before. They suggested a covenant could be created for how the kids could use the playhouse. So they sat down and talked about why they liked the treehouse and what made it fun. They discovered ways that they could all enjoy their treehouse in the way they wanted to. They came up with a new covenant, which laid out how they would be in the treehouse and how they would respect others who were also using the space. Well, just as the adults were starting a congregational meeting to adopt a policy for use of the treehouse, some church leaders looked out the window. They saw the children cooperating with each other and using the treehouse without conflict. A teenager was dispatched to the treehouse to discover what rules the participants had come up with. And when she reported back to the adults at the congregational meeting, the announcement came that the participants had created a covenant with one another. Well, the adults were humbled. Some sheepishly glanced at their church covenant framed on the wall, Hanging there, but mostly forgotten, the congregational meeting was adjourned. The adults went on their way, reminded of the power of covenants, working together to find a solution, and the commitment of people in right relationship with one another, all because of the Treehouse Rules. So let's all remember Treehouse Rules when we climb up into our own personal trees.
Thank you, Chuck. And thanks, Gail and John, for the fantastic treehouse. Those in the room, I invite you to come take a close look later, and we'll make sure we get a picture up. Maybe I'll include it with my column this week so you can see the details of that if you're not here in person. Yes, we are a covenantal faith tradition, and this is a covenantal community. The congregation's rules aren't about what you have to believe. In other words, not about a creed, not about what you have to believe, at least in terms of God or what happens after we die, or what is the nature of existence exactly. The rules here are promises that members create and then choose to make with one another about how they'll play together, about how they'll accompany each other on their unfolding journey. They are aspirational promises, and they're aspirational to be sure because some days we are just not at our best. The fact that we're rooted in covenant, in promises rather than a creed, tells you something immediately about Unitarian Universalism. That in this tradition, we are rooted in relationship before anything else, right? Because it wasn't about the beliefs, it was about the promises made. They're promises about relating. They're actually recipes for relating. That's what they are. In fact, some say that it is not possible to be a Unitarian Universalist by yourself, right? If covenant is what defines us, how do you do that just with yourself? Although I suppose you can make a covenant with yourself, but relating is the key. Our belief is that the importance of relating is central. And we forget this sometimes and get distracted by a detail and other kinds of structures and needs and policies and decisions that are also part of being a community. We sometimes get trapped in our own ideas or our own pain. And we are called then by our tradition's covenantal nature to remember that our community, our existence as a Unitarian Universalist community is born of our relating and held in by our promise to journey together in love. So we share this weekly ritual of joys and sorrows to invite our inward attention to notice what's there, but also our outward attention to the cries of the world. And then in community, our attentiveness to one another, knowing that we won't know everything that a person is holding. Those of you on Zoom will have a chance to type into the chat some portion of that well of joy and sorrow that is yours today, that you're holding today. And those in the room have a chance to move your body through space, to choose and to hold a stone, to place it in the water without words, to mark some portion of your well of joy and sorrow this morning. I invite you to this multifaceted ritual, this experience, knowing that it is about you and about each other at the same time and far beyond. Even in the silence, even in your own prayerfulness, may you notice and feel the relating in this linked circle of this room and the Zoom room and of our care that extends far outward from here. I invite us to hold this time tenderly and well together. The words and the wisdom of Reverend Teresa Soto. Reversals of fortune. People wake up to ordinary days all the time. And then, somehow, as though things were just too peaceful, they experience a drastic reversal of fortune. The car resting on its roof, the fall, the broken bone, the less than hoped for grade, the broken heart when a pet dies. You get it. You never know what's in a day, except you. You are the golden thread running through. I know that these reversals will test you. You may move through burdened with the fresh, wet grief, or for now, you may arrive at this moment unscathed. What you need to know is that there is nothing larger than the love that is your destiny. And the love may at times feel opaque and distant, like a looming thunder cloud too far to reach. And if that's too hard to locate, find your breath, a thread of your life. Find your community, friendly face and open hand. What's true is that some changes call for every skill that we possess. The deeper truth remains. Changes will eventually change. Let your heart flex. Let it grow. Allow a reversal to be a moment in which you are the constant, while you give yourself kindness and heaping joyful love.
Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul. Be with me, be with me, be with me, be with me, oh my soul. Be with me, be with me, be with me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul.
Good morning. The year is 1955 in Madison, Wisconsin, and I've taken my 2-year-old daughter to visit the hospital department where I worked as an occupational therapist before she was born. After the usual getting reacquainted conversation, I'm asked, "So how are things going in your new life pattern?" "Pretty good, except I can't find a church with a children's program that I'd trust." At which point my ex-supervisor chimed in, "Weren't you an art major before you found us? Ever heard of Frank Lloyd Wright?" "Of course, he's my favorite architect." "Well, he designed my church, and I think you'd like it, and also the people who attend services there. What if I pick you and Marcy up on Sunday morning and introduce you to a really different religion?" And that's how I discovered the Unitarians. My daughter fell in love with the radiantly heated room with a sandbox smack dab in the middle. I really enjoyed the coffee conversation time following the service, and my husband, who emphatically stated that he was not religious, discovered the humanist group, which kept his attention and loyalty for the rest of his life. we had found our church. This was the start of a 67-year learning curve for me. In Madison, I learned about the different ministers, the different styles of worship, and the surprising number of congregations who followed different paths of thought, but still gathered together under the one name, Unitarian. Until we moved to Manitowoc in 1962. That was the year that the Universalists joined with the Unitarians to become UU. And I found a whole new history to study. But more than that, our family, which now included 3 girls and a boy, discovered this upper part of the state had much less population and fewer UU churches. The closest one to us was an hour's drive away. Impossible. But not to worry, as I soon became acquainted with the Church of the Larger Fellowship. This was another facet of the Mother Church in Boston, which sent out monthly packets, including sermons and activities for children. This kept us connected for 2 years, at which time we traveled to Minneapolis, where my husband enrolled for an advanced degree, and we established ourselves in a very large 3-story church with many committees doing many activities involving many people. And needless to say, we raised a lot of money to keep everything working smoothly. Here I took advantage of an opportunity to get involved with the children's religious education part of UU and worked with a junior high group for a year. I also sampled some stewardship duties, learning about tithing and worshipful giving, and observed the need for excellent communication skills to keep everything in order. With a degree in hand, this family moved to our next adventure in Lansing, Michigan, to a church located in a repurposed Jewish fraternity house. Life doesn't always go smoothly, so there were some problems with one minister, followed by another who turned out not fitting in well and being allowed to resign. I had been working with the worship committee and was asked to continue as chair while the board of trustees set about convening a search committee for a new minister. With my knowledge about UU, I was approached to take over more responsibilities for the interim and ended up being hired for the better part of 2 years to run the church. In my history file, I found a copy of my duties as program director, which I would love to share with any interested persons. You can see how that developed. And my learning continued. The summer between those 2 years, I attended a church summer camp for more UU information, and my life changed dramatically. I furthermore settled in San Diego, California, in another large church with a singletarian adult group, yet another facet of our faith. Here I found out that not all churches focus on their people. Some get too caught up with money and lose a vital part of ministry. When my husband had a severe stroke, there was no caring committee to lend a hand. And I eventually found my way up here to Grass Valley, where another of my daughters assured me there was a UU church. She found you in the telephone directory. Only after my move that I discovered that the UUs met in Auburn. So I joined and I pledged and I got involved. I shared knowledge when asked and really practiced the T triad, sharing time, talent, and treasure. And here again, I became board president, came up with the idea of sharing some of Auburn's programs up here, had a couple meetings in Bill Tuttle's living room, and with the help of many of our talented folks already living a Unitarian lifestyle, we made it happen. We moved from Bill's living room to the Magic Theater for several months until we outgrew it, and next called the Helling Library meeting room our home. With continued growth, our next meeting place was the gym and some adjoining rooms at the Nevada City Elementary School. Barbara Hoyt, an amazing artist, joined our ranks and designed our stained glass posters and beautiful orders of service to create a better religious ambience. And John Burnside put together a lot of the things that she had done and honored her by making a booklet of her art. And I think there are a couple of copies of it in the library if you'd like to look at it. Well, from there we graduated to an afternoon meeting time at Trinity Episcopal, still in Nevada City. But one of our members happened to live on Walsh Street in Grass Valley. And noticed the mortuary on the corner of Church and Walsh. And here we are, after 2 consulting ministers, our first settled minister, and 2 temporary fillings before we found our Reverend Kevin. You are welcome to see and read about our journey as a religious institution in our history volumes in the library on the bottom shelves. As for my UU vision, I'd say that I'd like to see us be a model for social justice and help spread it throughout the communities in which we live. I think we have a good start on this right now. But today, I'm here to ask you for your time, talent, and treasure. You don't have to commit to it for 67 years. But if you appreciate the new learning, the wonderful people, and the great experiences that are available in this community, then let it nurture you as it has me, and let your pledge show you care. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Anita. You've been an architect of fate and building new ways for almost 95 years now. And we are so, so fortunate and grateful for that. It's important for us to have models like you, Anita, who have been renewing faith and faithfulness through many kinds of changes in life and in the world. You give us hope. Thank you. This final Sunday focused on the theme of renewing faith comes in a week and a half or so that's held many, many more face-to-face gatherings than I've had in a long, long while, including this morning, a soft opening of sorts to many more people in the service and to the option of making our faces visible, should we choose. I know some people, especially those for whom Zoom is not the greatest medium, have been worried about our sense of collected connectiveness after 2 years of pandemic. That connecting will indeed require our focused attention and investment of energy, and I encourage you to invest in it. And what I can tell you from my experiences this week is that the tendrils for connecting and reconnecting to one another are right there, right at the surface, ready for just the tiniest bit of water and sunlight to go flah and go reaching outward toward each other. It's been really wonderful to experience that and to witness it. And for those of you who are worried, I hope that can be of some reassurance to you. It's right there, ready for us to water it, right? Shine a little light on it. This morning, I'm thoughtful about how in the heck you renew faith in a time like this, right? How do you renew faith when so much is changing so powerfully? And when it's not possible, as if it ever was, to return to exactly what was. How do you renew faith not only while the world is on fire, but also in the hope of building back better, right? Not just going back, but to something better. And relating and connecting is certainly the place to start. It's an important anchor for us. So what about when we zoom out a little bit and take in a little bit more of the world with that question? How do we renew faith when so much is in motion and so much is in emotion at the moment? Quite often, my Sunday message, as many of you will know, is some variation on this. How do we practice coming to terms with what is? So that we can, in Buddhist fashion, and as Adrian Marie Brown would put it, so we can increase our ease with what is. Because what is what we've got to work with. And because what is never stops changing. How can we learn to be more at ease with whatever the current is, and therefore, because we're more at ease, be more helpfully responsive to it? Doesn't mean that we leave it as it is, but how can we be at enough ease to actually address it helpfully and well? That's a constant challenge, and I'm sure I'll be delivering that message again. How can we be at ease with what is? Adrian Marie Brown, who's been teaching and developing emergent strategy, points beyond becoming more at ease with what is. Adrian says that the goal is to be adapting with intention. Adapting with intention. What I appreciate about Adrian's invitation is that it recognizes that ever-changing what is, right? That's the whole point of adaptation. You have to actually change to respond, right? And it recognizes that we are not entirely at the mercy of fate, that what we do matters, that what we think matters, that what we envision and intend matters and makes a difference. In 1850, in the decade leading up to the Civil War, another time of growing strife, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, a Unitarian, wrote a poem that appears as a text in our hymn book for one of our hymns. Well, 4 of the 9 verses appear as verses in that hymn. And I know it by its first line, which is what brought it to mind today. All are architects of fate, Longfellow wrote. All are architects of fate, working within these walls of time. Time that he claims 170 years ago has all the materials that we need to build with. Kay Kreider's visit last week with the congregation as part of exploring what to do regarding this building, which the congregation owns outright now, sparked for me this metaphor of building for a new day, whether that means renovating what we know in life and in building, renovating something else that we discover, or building something brand new, all of which would require recognizing that we're working within the current walls of time that we've got, and that yes, we are the architects of what we build. Yes, we've got these walls, but we are the architects of what we build, and that we design and envision our intention in a way that will make a difference, even if there'll be surprises along the way. Adrian Marie Brown says that adapting with intention is the process of changing while staying in touch with our deeper purpose and longing, right? Being willing to change, but staying in touch with our deeper purpose and longing. And that's the place we're at, I say, and the place to which we're called as individuals and as a community right now to be in the process of changing while staying in touch with our deeper purpose and longing. One of Kay's recommendations to the congregation was to create and to claim a vision for the future of the congregation, a vision that is responsive to the new day, a vision that is responsive to the moment, no matter how chaotic it might feel right now. I explained a few weeks ago when we held the visioning session to kind of look outward toward the horizon, what people were able to do that day is look about this far. And understandably, right? That's where we are at the moment. It's hard to lift our eyes up any farther than that without that renewed sense of connection and community that helps ground us, gives us a sense of belonging so we can be anchored enough to pick up our eyes and look outward. That makes perfect sense to me. So the current work is to build into the congregation's future. And perhaps this is true in your personal life as well as the congregational life, to attend to the relationships first, right? To have that as the foundation, that sense of connection, before we'll be able to lift our eyes and look farther. And then as the congregation begins to regather in earnest, my invitation is to be watching for, listening for, looking for, feeling for that deeper purpose, that sense of longing that is likely to become vividly clear as we try to re-enter from our pandemic separateness, as we're more actively embodying community in these times. And we try to pick up where we left off, which is not going to work, right? And in that is some clarity about, I see this differently now. That's what matters. That's the center. So I'm naming it here early on so we can be on the lookout for it and not miss that window of opportunity, which won't last forever, It's in the re-entry that it's going to be most starkly, I think, visible to us. We've been sharing with each other our observations about what's changed in us and what's become clear to us as individuals in these past couple of years. And that's bound to influence our sense of what's important and what matters in our being together too, because we're different. So there's going to be this important window where we keep trying to step back into the way we remember it, and we'll realize it's changed. So as you're connecting and reconnecting, see if you can get in touch with that tangible sense of the community's deeper purpose now, that deeper longing now, so that as this community is able, it can lift its vision up to what's ahead and be able to adapt to the new day, the new what is, and be willing to change in ways that will serve the congregation's mission and its future. Because you, my friends, are the architects of what this congregation will be and become and build. Longfellow, writing in another age of rising tensions, titled his poem, The Builders. I'll share it here, pointing out that religious community, beloved community, is a design build project, right? It's both the designing and the building. All are architects of fate, working in these walls of time, some with massive deeds and great, some with ornaments of rhyme. Nothing useless is, nothing useless is, or low. Each thing in its place is best. And what seems but idle show strengthens and supports the rest. For the structure that we raise, time is with materials filled. Our todays and yesterdays are the blocks with which we build. Truly shape and fashion these, leave no yawning gaps between. Think not because no one sees, such things will remain unseen. In the elder days of art, builders wrought with greatest care each minute and unseen part, for the gods see everywhere. Let us do our work as well, both the unseen and the seen. Make the house where gods may dwell beautiful, entire, clean. Else our lives are incomplete, standing in these walls of time, broken stairways, where the feet stumble as they seek to climb. Build today, then, strong and sure, with a firm and ample base. And ascending and secure shall tomorrow find its place. Thus alone can we attain to those turrets where the eye sees the world as one vast plain and one boundless reach of sky. So, my architect cathedral building friends, and yes, that's you, all of you. And yes, I believe that communities like this community are going to be tremendously valuable in the changing future. I want to toss two things into your toolbox or tool bucket or tool drawer in case they might be the right tools at some future moment as you're working on designing and building together. The first one is one of those wonderfully creative and artful multi-tools. Adrian Marie Brown's core principles in the practice of emergent strategy. Small is good. Small is all, by which she means pay attention to the details, because how we do it here is how it's going to manifest here. Change is constant. We know it. Be like water, she says. There is always enough time for the right work. There is a conversation in the room that only these people at this moment can have. Find it. Never a failure, always a lesson. Trust the people. If you trust the people, they become trustworthy. She used to leave it there. It's evolved. Now it's trust the people. If you trust the people, they become trustworthy, and or the necessary boundaries become clear. Move at the speed of trust. Focus on critical connections more than critical mass. Build the resilience by building the relationships. Less prep, more presence. What you pay attention to grows. Tools to pull out again, work with later, but just I want to toss them in the toolbox now. It's a potential memory. And then to close, a passage that Kay Kreider shared with us last week by Daniel Burnham, as she was giving this community thoughts for the road ahead. And it appears to contradict the idea that small is good and small is all, but then at different times, we need different tools. Again, toss it in the tool bucket in case it comes in handy later. Make no little plans. They have no magic to stir the blood and probably will not be realized. Make big plans. Aim high and hope and work, remembering that long after we're gone, our work will continue to be a living thing. Remember that our children and grandchildren are going to do things that would stagger us. So make no little plans. As we remodel our lives, working in the walls of these times and on the undulating landscape of what is, designers and builders each and together, architects of fate, may our promise-strengthened connections to each other root us in the rich soil of relationship, allow us to look up enough to feel the deeper purpose and longing in our lives, to feel the spirit that comes alive in this act of faith, as Gretchen Haley put it, and so to adapt together with intention, believing still that a new world is possible, that we are creating it already, here and now, in our song, in our silence, our stories, our dancing, our sharing. May we make space for a new breath, a new healing, a new possibility to take root. So may we be.
Well, our share of the plate partner for this month has been the Interfaith Food Ministry on Henderson Street in Grass Valley. Interfaith Food Ministry has been working to feed the hungry and reduce food insecurity in Nevada County since 1987. Well, this final Sunday in March is one last chance to support Interfaith Food Ministry, which is racing to meet its goal of $60,000 this month with the help of generous matching donations. So all of us at UUCM thank IFM for their work in Nevada County and thank you for your generosity as well. So I'll pass the plates around. Thank you, Carmen.
Your generosity remains essential to our ability to sustain the work of our community. There are several ways to contribute. You may text an amount to 833-579-0483, give via our website at uugrassvalley.org, via PayPal at paypal.me/UUCM, or mail to UUCM 246 South Church Street, Grass Valley, California, 95945. Thank you.
Well, we dedicate your generous offerings this morning to the hope that food insecurity in Grass Valley and in the wider world can be eased with caring attention to the needs of others. Thank you for your generosity this morning.
Chuck for worship associating and story reading. Beth, thank you for another beautiful setting and for a beautiful reading. Beth has tucked tools and implements. Take a close look around and love the river flowing. Thank you. Eileen, thanks for being our chat host online this week. Carmen for being our greeter very much this morning. To Siobhan and Andy for our audio visual work. That is such a gift. Thank you. Gail and John for the amazing treehouse. Really, really so very wonderful. Toby, it's been great to have you here. Thanks for the very beautiful, beautiful music. Dahlia, thanks for the dance. And Rose, Beth Rose, the reading that accompanied it so beautifully. To Anita for words of wisdom from the full journey. Thank you. Thank you. To Scotty for the land acknowledgement, and Gail, who in a little bit will be offering the closing words. I invite us to sing a closing song together, Building a New Way. Now, here, this is one of those things you can play with, right? And look at a couple different ways. Is it about new building techniques? Like building in a new style form? Is it straw bale construction? Is it something new? Or are you building a new path, building a new way? Right? I invite you to hear it in both ways as we think about moving forward. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit and to sing.
We are building a new way. We are building a new way. We are stronger every day. We are building a new way. We are working to be free. We are
Our closing words. May our faith be renewed and reignited by Reverend Dr. Rebecca A. Savage. We light our flaming chalice each week with a simple spark to make holy our time together. With this flame, may our highest intentions be refreshed. With this flame, may we remember who we are and whose we are. With this flame, may our faith be renewed and reignited to guide our journey. Amen, and may it be so. And now, though we extinguish our chalice at the end of our time, together we know that we will carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again.
Dahlia, would you be willing to extinguish the chalice since you lit it today?
Thank you.
Get ready. The microphone on your camera. And I'll unmute everyone shortly. Say hello.